حالنا بيت. Welcome back, and as we're starting our first segment, of course, we're going to take a deeper look over the important visit by His Excellency, the Head of State, President Abdel Sisi, to Washington, in particular in the United States, to attend the U.S.-African Summit. And according to the statement by the presidential spokesman, Bassam Radi, said that the President intends to focus over the issues of concern to African countries in light of the existing global challenges, of course, and to strengthen the African-American partnership, also to confront the most vital issues that is worrying the whole world, which is food security crisis, to facilitate also the integration of African countries into the global economy. And also the summit was held at the level of African leaders through 5 sessions dealing with Africa with good governance, democracy, human rights, justice and the rule of law. Also another session, Africa enjoying peace and security. Another one, prosperous Africa based on comprehensive growth and also sustainable development, and multilateral partnership with Africa to address the global challenges and strengthening food security and resilient food systems. Of course, very, very important issues that were tackled in this summit. Very delighted to be having with us live in the studio Dr. Rahman, our economic and political analyst. Good morning, Dr. Rahman.
Well, good morning to you and hello to the new viewers.
As we can see, Mr. Abdurrahman, that the important sessions that I just mentioned that were tackled in the summit were touching vital issues that the whole world is concerned with. We need to start one by one. One of the sessions is Africa with good governance, democracy, human rights, justice, and the rule of law, which is also, summoning the whole issue.
Well, I believe this visit and this summit comes in a very critical time that the whole world is going through right now. I believe also that it's a very important forward step for our diplomacy in our relations with our Western partner, the USA. And of course, we have strong relations, historical, since the beginning, of course, of the establishing of the USA. And of course, we can never neglect looking at the timing of the summit and what happened before the summit. To look at this summit from a wider view, you can never forget that we had an important summit right before it in Riyadh with China, which is the most important power in the East, and that represents the strategy, our diplomatical strategy that we have established, truly established, right afterwards the revolution of June 30 revolution, which is maintaining the balance, or creating for the first time the balance in our relations with the East and the West. Our relations, we went to Washington as we had critical decisions and crucial and brave decisions. We're talking about being a part of the BRICS protocols with Russia and China and India and other countries. We have also made it clear and specified our sea borders to the West, despite or regardless of any other point of view of any other country like Turkey. We went to the US afterwards. We have taken those crucial decisions that means a lot to us as stronger and as a country that's going stronger each and every moment. That means a lot, of course, as a message. We are carrying a message to the West, to the Western partner. We are building our relations on the ground of partnership, only partnership, nothing else, nothing less. We are talking shoulder to shoulder, despite, of course, the difference between the powers, but we are using our all soft diplomatic and other forces and other powers to reduce the distance between a country that is going stronger compared to a greater power is going weaker each and every moment. Those highlights are in the mind and the heart of our leadership and our leader, Mr. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, when he has visited and started and took part of this summit.
Right. Also, another session is Africa enjoying peace and security. Of course, we all dream of every continent having peace and security. But when we talk about Africa, for example, according to statistics and observers concerned with climate change and the challenges of climate change, they said Africa is the most continent that is prone to the dangers of climate change because of the wrong practices by the industries of the developed world. Of the, countries like the American continent and also Europe and other countries, industrial world, they are throwing their waste in Africa, or also taking their industries and pollution to Africa. So these were the things that is hindering the development of Africa in a way and challenging climate change.
Africa and the African nations were victims of the colonialism for decades, for centuries, I might add. They have suffered slavery and robbing their fortunes and from the main sources in their lands. The West has a bloody history in Africa. Why did Africa suffer? Because it didn't have the shield that protects its interests, its nations, which can be represented in two things. Having a leader, which is Egypt, the historical leader and the shield of the continent. We were absent for centuries before, and lacking the unity, the common vision that gathered the whole nations in Africa as one continent, share the same interests and the same hopes, and the same ambitions. With Egypt coming back to its strength and its power, and with our own blood again running in our veins in Africa again, after decades of isolation from Africa, from our roots. So the true roots of Egypt is in Africa. We belong to Africa more than anything else. Those roots were dried for decades before, and we have again irrigated it with our friendship, our mutual understanding, our common identity. That's how Egypt is leading the continent. Not only in this summit, but in each and every summit and each and every occasion, international occasion around the world. Germany in the G20, in summits similar with China, with Germany, and now with the US. We are trying to make it clear to the whole world that it's not anymore Africa is going to be the continent that demands help or seeks help. We need to be looked at as partners, looked at as countries with their own decision coming from their own ruling houses. In Africa, with Egypt as one power, as one vision, as one interests, we believe that Egypt has established already too many projects in Africa right now, even with Ethiopia, even with Congo, with Sudan, even in deeper in Central Africa and South Africa. We have took the natural place, the natural post as leaders of this continent. When we were the leader of the African Union, we didn't find it strange. It was the natural post. That's how we found it so easy and welcoming hands.
And besides, also its natural resources.
Of course,
it's very rich with natural.
There's
That's
nothing,
why
no power like
there
Egypt.
is an eye focused over Africa.
Exactly. This is why Egypt should protect the Egyptian and the African interests from the outer influence. We're not talking about colonialism anymore. We're talking about outer influence. We're talking about hostility can be drawn to, or attracted to our sources like diamonds, like gold, like cobalt. We have the mines, the greater mines of sources and metals that that Europe needs the most. In this way of thinking, by using our relations as partners with the US and other countries, even with the West, with China, with Russia, we are dealing with the whole world as partners. This is the only way we can deal, and this is the only way we can be dealt with. We're not any more followers. Of course, there is a big gap between Egypt and other countries in Africa, of course. But with the friendly look, the friendly arms of Egypt, we can contain this gap. We can take the hands of our brothers, not only associates in the continent, to share the same vision, to grow up all together, to give the rights of the African people back again after centuries of neglection.
That's true.
And
suffering. Also, given the fact that Africa is rising back again with all the elements that you have talked about, and with its natural resources, and which is with its human resources as well, is becoming a good hope and ambition for the whole world to renew itself in the sense of diversifying its resources of industry, of energy, maybe of trade, partnerships on many levels. I mean, Africa is the future, actually.
Is the future, right, of course, economically. We have fresh sources that are not being used at all. And we have opportunities for investments. But it only can be run with an African mind, an African hands, an African vision. This is the message. This is the message delivered by the President Abdel Fattah Sisi to the Americans. Of course, we have so many. We are talking now Egypt. Egypt, we have set the example, not only for African countries, but for the whole third world nations. By nationalizing technology instead of importing it. Not just we have to obtain that technology, not just import it with the experts from outside. We need to build our own base of technology, of industry. That's how we can build our own future. That's how we can build our own new republic. Not by importing, but using our relations, our soft powers, to have it our way in a common vision with other partners in the world, whether in the East End or the West. Militarily, we have set the example. We are now building our own military bases, military industries. We're not just anymore using others' services. We are building our own with our own hands, our own shield, our own military industries. That can happen. This is very important file, of course, in our relations with the U.S. We don't belong to them anymore. We don't belong to them in need for their weapons anymore. We don't need their aid at all, totally. This is a very important vision that Mr. President is carrying to Washington.
We are negotiating on a win-win situation.
Exactly.
That's true. So another session also tackled the theme of Africa a prosperous Africa based on comprehensive growth and sustainable development, which is very important. We in Africa are working day and night, tooth and nail, to attain comprehensive growth on all domains, also sustainable development, of course, on many levels, and we are also recovering our mistakes in order, not recovering our mistakes, I mean considering other solutions in order to avoid the past mistake, to be able to attain development. If you like to elaborate.
Without the strong decision and the strong leadership, we can never obtain what we are seeking by sustainable development or building our own
What are the main challenges from your own point of view that might hinder development of the continent? As we are speaking of a whole continent, that it's like one country, and that is very important to lay a foundation. I mean, there are conflict of interest. There is conflict of interest. There is also, I mean, water issues. There is also material issues. There is industrial issues. Of course, conflict of interest on many levels. But from your own points of view, what are these important, what are the most important challenges ahead, or that is before our eyes, that we should quickly look for means and ways to sort it out?
By using economical interests, by using common projects that means prosperity for both nations, whether in Egypt or other associates and brothers in Africa. By realizing that we deserve each other as partners and as brothers, and we should stand together as one. By eliminating the outer influences, the Western and the Zionist existence influence in Africa is dangerous, and we have been dealing, and we are dealing right now as we are speaking with those dangers by refreshing the minds in African nations. Those are the threat. Those influences are not here to help or to give us any any help or any way of good living for our nations. No, they are robbing our sources in Africa. They are meaning not well for our nations. They are abusing the nations and the sources of fortune. We can never forget that crimes were committed against millions and millions of African nations by King Leopold of Belgium and his family and other families. The past century, the 18th century and 19th century. That history only has changed. They have changed how to deal with our continent. They have created conflicts. Those conflicts you are talking about is a very important point. They have created those conflicts for the nations to be occupied in fighting against each other's, fighting themselves. We have witnessed the Tutsi and the conflict in Uganda. Millions were suffering from elimination in the 90s, and so ever. We are talking about those conflicts were created in Africa by outer hands to keep them occupied while those hands are robbing the fortunes of Africa.
Of course, and unfortunately we ran out of time on this very important note. Mr. Abdel Rahman, our political analyst, would like to thank you so much coming over to the breakfast show.